So Ethan is a 17-year-old boy that represents so many of the kids in South Africa. I think it's very important to know that there's many Ethans out there. He represents a large number of kids. He's a great driver. He needs to look after his baby brother, so he joins a gang. And that's also the results of so many kids' lives. You need to either join a gang to survive or to become part of the life, to make something out of yourself if you want to work. But Ethan does that solely for putting bread on the table for his baby brother, and then he discovers spinning. And I think it's so important because it shows so many other kids in the similar situation that there is a way out, some way, somehow. Definitely, not even right now, but for a decade already, decades. I mean, it's so cathartic as well that spinning actually started with gangsters. They originated spinning. I remember when I did my research, they said that they used to steal the cars. People used to steal the cars and then come and spin it in the community to brag. And how that has become a way out of gangsterism is just so beautiful. So yeah, it does represent life in South Africa. So Afrikaans is actually a political thing. Afrikaans started years back with the Dutch still in apartheid years, and people of color were forced to speak Afrikaans. So especially the colored community, they basically made it their own. So when we had the first draft of Spinners, it was completely English. And I was excited for that because then it's a universal, it applies to universal audiences. But when we had the rewrite in the Afrikaans and Afrikaans, because there's two actually, it's Afrikaans and Afrikaans. So Cape Town colored community has created their own language. There's even a dictionary, I think it was released a year ago, the Afrikaans dictionary. So it's very important for audiences to experience that of South Africa, because it is a huge part of our culture. It's a huge part of our history, and the reshape of the language into Afrikaans has I think brought some pride back to the community. It being a language that is still spoken in our schools. We still have Afrikaans as a compulsory language if you go to English school or if you go to Afrikaans school. It's still important. Then you also have institutions that solely speak Afrikaans, and it being dominantly a white language, a white Afrikaner language. So there's also that involved. So that's why I think Afrikaans is so important, because there's more Afrikaans than Afrikaans in Spinners, because it gave the community and people who has gone through the past in apartheid a sense of pride and a sense of love for their culture. I am. When I auditioned, they asked me how good of a driver I am, and I said I'll only give myself a 9. The 1% I would not say because of ego, but now I can say I'm a 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do the own spinning because of, it's very difficult to redo what you did in the car. It's controlled chaos in that car. But I got the opportunity to do spinning before we started shooting. And if I do say so myself, it was beautiful. I had one go with the stunt driver. He showed me literally in sequence while I was in the car with him. Showed me and then said, okay, now you go. So I did it, and it went really well. And yeah, I've been driving since I was 10 years old. I drove my mom's car, and then later on, my father only found out I could drive when I got my license. I would want them to remember everything. But I think my main want and need for the success of Spinners is for international companies to realize there's a lot of stories and there's a lot worth investing in the country. Like someone asked recently, how is the industry there? And I said, it's very difficult because funding, you don't get a lot of funding for pieces, and if you do, the budget is very low. So you don't, like after Spinners, after someone's international lead, they could be set for a year or 2 or 3. Unfortunately, we needed to go on to the next one. Funding doesn't really last us long enough to have the luxury of choosing and picking and choosing what you want to do. We have to always, occupy ourselves. So I hope that this makes a mark that people want more. As one of my favorite lines in a sitcom community, I bet it says 6 seasons in a movie, and that's what I'm hoping for, 6 seasons in a movie.